this camera is dead. Hi, Eric Gibaud, ericgibaud.com, and luckily this camera is not dead. But I'm going to speak about all the gear that stops working, and unluckily we don't know much what to do, whether it's a camera, whether it's a lens, whether it's a flash unit. And so I'm going to speak a bit about the possibilities. Sometimes it can be fixed, sometimes it's not possible. So let's start. Most people, when they think about camera failure, they think about the shutter, the curtain that is in the camera, that it breaks. They think about this, but there are many other possible failures. Just the camera, but also the camera body, also the lenses, also flashes, and whatever. Okay, so we're going to look at it, and then but we're going to start with the king of them, which is the shutter. So normally camera makers give you a life expectancy for the shutter, and they say like 8,000 or 80,000 or 100,000 actuation before the shutter could break. But this is just an average. I know I've seen some cameras that have a shutter life expectancy of 100,000 actuation, and they have like 300,000. And I know a guy who had a Leica M10, and after 27,000 actuation only, the shutter broke. So what they say is not exactly what it has to be. Okay, it may change. Okay, the thing is, when the shutter breaks, you can change it. It doesn't mean the camera is dead. The only thing is the price. If your camera is worth around 2,000 or 3,000 euros or dollars, US dollars, well, changing the shutter will cost about 400. Okay, so is it worth it? Yes, it is. But if your camera is worth like new, like 500 euros or $500, changing the shutter will cost maybe 300. So maybe it's not worth it. So this is something you have to estimate if it's worth changing it or not. But be aware of one important thing. Many people, when they sell you their camera body, they say, well, but I've got many actuation, but you can change the shutter and then the camera is like new. No, that's not true. The shutter is new, but not the rest of the camera. The build, everything, the seal, the weather seal, all this will be older, okay? And also the sensor itself may be old. So you should be really careful when you see a camera for sale that have a low actuation number, like 10,000 actuation in 5 years, because maybe the person have made a lot of video and not pictures. So not many camera actually register the amount of time you've been recording video. They just check pictures. So it means that the sensor may have overheat, and so maybe you actually start to have hot pixel, or it starts to degrade, and you'll get many hot pixel really soon. So make sure that even if you don't have that many actuation, that the rest of the camera is really okay. Okay, that's important. And saying that changing the shutter makes you a new camera, that's not true. It makes you a new shutter, not more. Okay, then you have other parts of the camera body. But before going further, many people are not sure whether it's possible to repair or not repair a camera, and when the maker will repair it. Well, depends on the country where you are, but most countries have laws that protect the consumer, and 5 years after, up to 5 years after stopping making a camera, the maker should be able to have spare parts and repair the camera. Some countries maybe less, normally makers make everything worldwide, okay? So normally it's 5 years. So it means if your camera is 3 years old, it's not made anymore, but it's 3 years old, and the shutter breaks, for example, or any electronic part, the maker have to repair it and have spare parts. Obviously, it doesn't mean they repair it for free. Obviously, you have to pay for it if it's after warranty, okay? But still, they need to have the spare part and be able to repair it, okay? So, other part that may fail, electronics. Electronics is a big problem because normally it's almost impossible to repair it if you don't have spares. So if an electronic part of your camera stops working, well, there's probably no solution if the maker doesn't want to repair it. Even paying, sometimes don't want to repair it. They say they don't have the spare, they don't want, because more than 5 years, and that's it. So this is really important that not just for digital cameras, also when you look at film cameras, there is cameras like the Contax T2, for example. I can't remember which singer was on TV, and the guy says, the presenter says, I've heard you make pictures, and she got, I think it was Taylor Swift, I'm not sure, she got a camera out of her bag, and it was a Contax T2, and at that time a Contax T2 was worth about $500 secondhand. Well, it was only secondhand, not new anyway. And after that, it was like from $2,000 to $3,000. But the problem with the Contax T2, if the electronics fails, you can throw it in the bin or have it on the shelf to expose it, but that's it. Stop working. Same thing with the Mamiya RZ67, which is a medium format camera. If you want medium format and we're thinking about the RZ67, I don't recommend it. Get the get the RB67 that has no electronics. So it means if it fails, it's a lot easier to repair than the RZ, where there are probably no solution if electronic is failing. Okay, so get into account that electronics is the worst part of our cameras. If it fails and there is no spare parts, or the maker is not willing to repair it, that's a big problem. Sometimes there are small failures that are not they're annoying, but they're not too much of a disaster. Like on my Olympus OMD EM5 Mark II, the switch here was failing. So I could switch off, but it would not stop. I mean, it was on all the time, so I needed to remove the battery to have the camera switched off. Okay, so I started to check in Facebook groups, Olympus groups, and several people had the problem. One repaired it for something like 150 euros. I thought it was a bit steep for that. Okay, and another guy kept removing his battery. Another guy removed the battery for 3-4 days and reset the camera completely, and then it was fixed. And in my case, I didn't want to pay for that. I didn't want to keep removing the battery all the time, and I started to blow like mad in the switch, and it fixed it. So obviously there was some dust in there that made a bad contact, and it would not switch off. Okay, so sometimes you have, because of dust that gets a small piece of dust that gets in there, it could be a problem. So clean the camera, try to see if that could be the problem. Okay, sometimes it's not the camera itself, it's the battery. So you charge a battery, the battery is fully charged, it works fine, battery looks nice, okay, perfect, the light is on your charger, you put it in the camera, and after 30 seconds camera is dead. So you think this is a camera problem. No, maybe it's a battery problem, that the battery is too old, it seems to be charged, but it's not. So straight away it empties the battery, and that's it, over. So it's important that you check if this is something like this. Check with another battery if it still happens. Okay, so but it happens very often, that kind of problems. Then some other failure are the screen, LCD screen. Okay, sometimes you have a complete failure, you don't see anything, but you realize the camera still works. You actually make pictures, and if you check your memory card, you have new pictures in there. It's just a screen that is failing. So if it's a reflex camera, it's complete problem if you want to change menus, all this. If it's a mirrorless, you can use your viewfinder sometimes to still navigate and use it, but obviously it's not practical. Sometimes you have pod failure, which is like dark areas that appear. That can be because you knocked the screen and that made a problem, or sometimes failure that do happen, and that's also not really practical. Okay, sometimes it's make the camera almost unusable. Okay, and then as more and more camera, when you have a flip screen like this, if you really abuse of them, the connection here may fail, and it's quite expensive to fix it. Okay, so make sure don't abuse turning the screen only when you actually you need it, not just turning like this and back and this and back all the time. Okay, in my opinion. Okay, but these failure are not the death of the camera, but still it's really annoying to use the camera. So you almost have always to repair it, and this is expensive, I think, in my opinion. What I've seen in prices, it is expensive. And also you may have sensor problem, what they call hot pixel, which are like small dots, like a red dot, a blue dot, a color dot. And the problem is this may happen with a brand new camera. And some people, they've just bought a camera and they see there's like a red dot in the picture. Normally you see it more in long exposure picture than a normal picture, okay? They have the red dot here, and they contact the maker, and the maker says, yeah, but read the small prints. And most makers, they will not change the camera if you have less than 3 or 5 hot pixel, depends on the brand, okay? Because they think this is a normal thing that may happen when you make a sensor. You may have some hot pixel, and most brands, they will not change the camera. So that's a big problem. So in this case, you have to go to Lightroom, or if your camera allows you to remap dust and hot pixel, and it remaps it, so it will cover the hot pixel with a pixel next to it, so you don't see the red dot. And this is actually what I was speaking about cameras when they have low shutter actuation. Sometimes they've been used a lot for video, and you don't realize that even if you a standard picture you make, you don't see any hot pixel. When you start to do long exposure or video yourself, many hot pixels appear because the sensor has been used so much and maybe has been overheating, and now it quickly gets some hot pixels. So it's important to check that. But this may be a big sensor problem. And then you have massive sensor problem like the Leica M9, where actually it gets oxidation like rust, okay? So rust is on metals, I don't know how they do that, basically oxidation, okay? And up to recently, Leica would change a sensor for free if you had that, but like a year and a half ago, something like this, they said they would not change it for free anymore. They give you a discount if you buy a new M camera, which price on an M10 like it's like 7,000 euros, something like this, 7.5, and on M11 it's like 8,300 euros, okay? But they will give you a 2,000 euros discount if your M9 has you have oxidation on the sensor. I think this is incredible, but well, that's the way Leica works. But at least they change it, because many company they change it or give you some kind of solution. Many other brands, they will not do anything because it's out of guarantee. By the way, I had two Leica M8, and when I sold them, a week after I sold the second one, the guy called me and said, Eric, there is a thin line on every pictures. I said, thin line? I don't see anything. So I opened my Lightroom, checked pictures I had, no line, nothing. And I realized that I was always making picture at 2.8 or f4, not really f11 or sometime, but rarely, and didn't notice much. The buyer actually tried on f16 and f22, and yes, there was the thin line. So I said, well, I'm willing to pay for a repair, or I give you your money back and send me the camera back. He said, wait, I'm going to speak with Leica, see what they say. And even the camera was out of guarantee. Actually, Leica said it was probably there since day one, and they changed the sensor for free at that time. I don't know if they would do it now, okay? But it was not in guarantee, they still changed the sensor for free. So, well, it's expensive camera, but the service was there, okay? And then there are other small things that may happen. For example, on the Canon 5D, the first one, the mirror sometimes got loose, and if you heard like some noise in there, you should not trigger, because it would it could interfere with the shutter and break it. But otherwise, you would carefully remove the lens and see how your mirror would fall, okay? So better do it over a bed, not over the floor, obviously. And then I've had a friend who had this camera, and simply the first time it happened, he sent it to Canon and they fixed it. And the second time, because it happened again, he just glued it with cyano, I don't know what you call that, this really fast glue, okay? He put like a small drop and fixed it this way, okay? But this is a simple problem you can fix unless the mirror falls on the floor, okay? So now we're going to see more problem with lenses and flashes, and we'll see a bit what decision to take when you have a problem like this. So let's speak about lenses. Well, there are several kind of failure, but the most usual failure with the lens is actually an error called in Canon is error 01, I think. Other they give you a communication failure, but this is basically a communication failure. Most of the time the reason is can be two: electronic failure in the lens or dirty contact. Here as you can see you have some contacts here. Okay, you have the same in the body. I don't put the body up because I don't want dust to get in there. And if the contacts, electric contacts are dirty, then it doesn't work, so there is no communication, so the lens, there's no way to configure it properly, okay? So, or get the information, or change the aperture. If you don't change it on the lens itself, then you cannot change it, and autofocus stops working very often. So the first thing to do is to clean this contact. Use a small pick for a small cotton for years, okay? And you normally use an alcohol for that. I can't remember the name of the alcohol for that. It's propylic. I'm not sure of the name. Probably some people will comment in there, okay? So you just clean the contacts, and normally that works. If it doesn't work, well, this is probably a more serious problem, probably an electronic problem, and there is probably no solution, okay? So other than sending to repair it, okay? To repair it, because cleaning is not enough. Another problem that may happen, I remember the Canon 24 to 105 millimeter f4L lens, the first version. Now they have the second version for reflex, okay? And don't speak of the mirrorless one. After a couple of years, there's a small wire in there that breaks, and the lens stops working. The problem is repairing is very expensive, and it's like 400 euros. So because Canon actually offer you to have a flat price, doesn't matter what the problem is. So in that case, that's expensive. I know a guy in Sevilla. I presented a workshop, and then he had this problem, and he got it repaired by a third-part repairer, and he fixed it for 150 euros. Okay, but Canon was asking for 400 for that. Okay, so if this fails, there's no other solution than fixing it if you want to pay for that. Okay, but if it's a wire, it's same as electronic. There's no solution other than repairing it. And then there's another problem which is not actually electronic or mechanical. This is optical. You have some humidity, mushrooms, whatever you call it, that gets into your lens, and then it will appear on the picture. The lens will work, but it will appear on the picture. So the only way to fix it is to clean it. A technician can clean it, but if your lens is costs about 2,000 euros, well, it's worth cleaning it. But if your lens costs 50 euros, it's not worth cleaning it, because the work is exactly the same, and you'll have to pay a top price for something that is on a lens that is not worth that much money, okay? Also, if your lens has the shutter in the lens, a leaf shutter, you may have a failure of the leaf shutter in your lens. That happens also. Sometimes the iris of the lens gets stuck, so you cannot actually open or close, because maybe you have some oil or grease that got really dry in there. It got stuck, okay? So you have to keep the same aperture full time. Sometimes it can be because of humidity or mushroom that grew there and got stuck, okay? So these are the main problem with lenses. You may have others, but these are the main problem you normally have, okay? So let's speak about flashes. I'm going to speak about Cobra flash, well, some studio also, but mainly Cobra flash, not about flashes that are integrated in your camera body, okay? Well, the most common problem is the condenser. You will notice that your flash is not giving as much light as when it was new. Why? Because you have some condenser in there, and they have several, and one of them start to fail, so it doesn't give normally it's accumulate energy, and then when you trigger the flash it gives everything, okay? So if it doesn't charge fully, then you don't get as much light, okay? So what actually kills condenser? Sometimes it will stop completely, all condensers are dead, and there's no solution with the condenser but changing them, okay? But what actually damages condensers? Well, the first one is if you do a stroboscopic light, which is like you have one picture, but you have a moving object, and it makes several pictures. That is really bad for condensers, really bad for flashes. It overheats. Normally, the maker tells you get your flash like resting like half an hour or 20 minutes after doing this, or sometimes you have an overheating system that will stop the flash working on purpose just because you've abused with that. So this is a big reason. Also, when you do burst photography and you have your flash really all the time, that really damages also condensers, because it doesn't give them time to recharge fully, and also it overheats the flash. So it is also not that good to use that. If you need that, you really need flashes that supports this perfectly, and even this will damage the condenser, but well, you must know that, okay? And also if you do high sync, which is HSS, when you do high synchronization with your camera, what happened really, from a certain speed, if you don't want to have this black fringe on your picture, you need to make several flashes. Although you see just one, your flash is actually shooting several flashes. As your shutter curtain is moving, it will make several flashes, and that damage also the condenser. Actually, you'll notice that when you do high sync, you get less power, because to avoid overheating, and also because it doesn't give enough time for the condenser to be fully charged again, you get less power. Okay, so this is why I prefer to use ND filters to cut ambient light, and then use the flash at full power if needed, within the margin of normal synchronization, without using high sync, because that really kills it. Okay, then you can have any electronic problem, like electronic component that fails, and then that's a problem. Very often it's not worth changing it, paying for the repair, except if it's an expensive flash. And also you can have the tube that fails. So if it's a Cobra flash, normally if it's expensive, maybe it's worth changing it, but if it's the typical 50 to 100 euros flash, it's not worth changing it. Maybe they don't even let you change it, okay? So normally it's not worth it. If it's the studio flash or Godox AD200, for example, then you can change the flash tube if it fails. That's even normal, it may fail, so you can change it, no problem. But on a Cobra flash, normally it's complicated to change them, or they don't have spare, or they don't let you change it because it's not made to be changed. Okay, that depends on the flash. Okay, but something that is really, really, really important: if your flash fails and you don't know about electronics, do not open it. You can get a really serious electric shock, because the condenser, if it's full, when you're going to touch, you're going to receive electricity, okay? And you think this is just a small flash, but yeah, but it's really strong, okay? Some people have heart attack with that, okay? So really don't touch it. If you want to open it, first trigger it on the test button. If the test button doesn't work, it doesn't mean the condenser is empty, okay? It means the test button may be failing, okay? So if you're not sure, don't touch it. People who know about electronics and normally open it and make sure they empty the condenser to not have any charge in there anymore, okay? So don't play with that, because that may be a really health problem for you, okay? So getting to the conclusion, well, it's very simple. When something is failing, you have to ask one thing: is it possible to repair it? Yes or no? If it is, well, is it worth repairing or not? If it's worth repairing, yeah, you repair it, and that's it. But if it is not repairable, or it's not worth repairable, many people will think, well, I throw it in the bin, I don't need it anymore. Stop here. I had a Canon 85mm 1.8 that started to fail. It was a communication problem. Even cleaning the contact, I could not fix it, and then it was just dead. It was not possible anymore to use it. So I was going to throw it in the bin, and then I thought maybe I should check if people buy that. So I went on eBay, and yes, I saw people were selling broken gear, stating clearly that it was for spare and repair, or repair. Okay, so I thought, well, I'm going to try to sell it. So I published the ad saying I was selling this 85mm, stating clearly it was broken, did not work, it was for spare part or repairing, and I would not accept return. I put everything clear. And this length cost here in Spain 350 euros. well, actually sold it to an Ukrainian guy for 100 euros, so the third of its price new. And then I realized that there are many countries where they cannot find gear or it's too expensive, so they really used to get 2 or 3 gear of the same to make one that works. So maybe his electronics was fine, but his glass was wrong. I got mine to place on his electronics, or vice versa, it doesn't matter. And actually guy for 100 euros could fix maybe something else. So don't throw things in the bin. Maybe it's possible you sell something that is broken, but it may interest someone else, and that makes you some money to buy new thing, part of new things. Okay, so don't throw things just because they're broken. Maybe you can actually sell it and finance other things. Okay, so that's it. So thank you for watching the video. If you feel it may interest other people, please share it on social networks. If you have not done it yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. So a button down here and also a small bell. If you click on the bell, get notified when I upload a new video. My website ericgibaud.com. If you have any question, can leave a comment below. Also leave you links of my gear on Amazon, links to other part of my YouTube channel, link to everything I've tested by K&F Concept and Sandmark, and also a link to my PayPal account in case you wanted to make a donation. Thank you very much. Please take care of yourself and see you soon. Bye.